So on this blended day, you might want to mute your computers because that kind of weird song was from a simulation you're going to be playing around with today. So there are lots of types of energy, and we have calculated potential, specifically about gravity and height, and also we have calculated kinetic, specifically about motion and moving objects. There's a lot of other ones, and this activity today is going to get you to see some examples, but the calculations of them are a little bit different and wonky, and we are not going to calculate them this unit. So I'm in the problem set here. This is on page 4 of the problem set, the very top. This should be the last part in your problem set. So you want to have this out while you also have your computer to both watch this video, but then go to the link on the class log, click on menu, and create a level. So let me show you what I mean by that by showing you my computer here. So I just went on the class log, and this is day 10, so clicked on simulation link. Right here, it opened this up. If your computer's not working, you might just need to click through it or go find a friend whose computer's working. It's fun to just play. So if you want to just spend some time playing around, you drag different parts to try to get the ball to go into the cup. And ultimately, that's the goal of the game. What we're going to be doing, though, is creating your own level. So once you've kind of played around enough, or if you just want to get to the activity for the problem set for class, you want to go back to menu and press create a level. Creating a level lets you add all these different things in the editor, which show up in all of the different levels, and create what is called a Rube Goldberg machine. Now that's just named after the inventor who played around a lot with these, but we're just using it as a way to talk about energy transfer. So I'm going to go back to the problem set here to see what your task is. So you're going to be creating a level, and there's tons of different items to include. The level has to have 4 different energy transfers labeled and explained and identified or labeled with an arrow. And you need to have at least 3 different types of energy. So let's look at what examples of these would be. So first, let's look at types of energy. Well, there's potential due to gravity, or gravitational potential energy. I'm gonna actually be a little bit lazy and write P-E grav. Everyone will have this because you have to start your ball at a specific height. And so you will obviously start it at a height to give it some velocity to go. Then kinetic energy, everybody will also have, because your ball will have a velocity and move sometime throughout the level. Now, if you go into your blue notes, there's a slide that we talked about earlier this week, or last week, that has tons of different other types of energy. So what are some other types you can include? Well, let's look. There's lots. So over here, let's use a different color. Thermal energy. Everyone, if you have a ball rolling on a ramp, you're going to have some thermal energy being converted because of friction and heat. So you could talk about that. Electrical energy. There are little fans that you could have, and that fan has to be plugged into some sort of battery or cord that would be using and inputting electrical energy. I can't remember if there are any magnets you can use I don't think that there are, so no magnetic energy can be introduced. Sound and light energy, if we were able to put a candle or some sort of light, then you could have light energy, but that's not an option in the game. Sound energy, you can't really hear it, but a little bit would obviously be lost to sound. For example, when a ball drops on a surface, you hear a sound. And so a little bit of energy from that started out as potential gravitational energy would be converted to sound. So if ever you think you'd hear a noise, you could talk about sound energy. Now over on the right, potential energy, obviously gravitational, everybody's talking about, but then there's a few different elastic options or bouncy things. So there's a bounce block that's black, and then at the end there's this super spring that's a little red and white striped box. Both of those you could talk about with elastic energy. So essentially make sure you will talk about kinetic, velocity, potential, gravity, and then either thermal, electric, sound, or elastic. You can include more than one, but you just need to identify at least one other. So let's go back to the problem set and see what you might start with. Okay, so those are types of energy. Now, how could we start and talk about an energy transfer? Well, you're going to start with a ball, and somehow that ball is going to drop. Now, it might drop far, it might drop not very far, and maybe you're going to insert a bar down there. And then you're going to have a bunch of other crazy stuff, and then eventually you'll have the cup where it falls. Okay, so I'm just going to show you one energy transfer here. When a ball drops down, the potential energy, gravitational, right, gets partially turned into kinetic energy. And that's because the height is going down and the velocity is going up as potential turns into kinetic. So that's identifying it with an arrow. To explain it, we can have that little symbol and we could say, as h or height drops, v velocity increases. Really, that's all you need in terms of an example. Now you could have the opposite example too. Let's say, later on in the level that you create, here's the ball, and somehow it's actually going up. Well, this transfer would be the opposite. Kinetic energy is getting turned into potential energy or height. So we could say, KE and velocity slow and decrease as height and potential energy increase. So those could be two different energy transfers you could talk about, but remember you have those other types of energy to include. So from the blue notes, you could have decided to include thermal, which was about friction, sound, which is actually a type of kinetic energy based on air molecules moving. Let's see, elastic, which is potential energy in a spring or something bouncy. Electrical, if you use the fan to do something, because that has to have some sort of electricity energy source. So just make sure once you've created your level, you will draw it here, identifying 4 energy transfers. Remember, an energy transfer, that would be one example. My purple one here is another energy transfer. So I have 2. I'd need 2 more. And then at least 3 energy types. And those, everyone's going to have gravity, potential, and kinetic, but you have many other options. And just remember,